Are the Spurs still in rebuild mode?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family. And you lucky SOB, you're listening to the best Spurs podcast out there. Locked On Spurs with your boy, Jeff Garcia. God, he's sexy.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great work week. Almost done. The week is almost wrapping up, but we'll get you through these last 2 days, get you ready for the weekend. Hey, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to be looking at the Spurs. Shocking, but asking the question, is this still team rebuild? Is this team still in the rebuild phase right now? Are they something else? Is it going to be another year and 2 years before they're out of the rebuild mode? We're going to be discussing that. And also looking at that Evan Fournier-Spurs Knicks thing that's been floating about last couple of weeks. It's the offseason, everybody. I got to think of something to talk about. So we'll talk about Evan Fournier and this Spurs rumor. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube. The list goes on and on. You guys are the everydayers. So speaking of the rebuild, I've been very vocal about that in Locked On Spurs. Y'all know that, saying like perhaps it's not a neon sign, glowing Las Vegas sign you see on the strip, rebuild, but this team, I think it pretty much is still doing its thing, trying to get better. Sure, you swing to the fences, you tank, and you get Wemby. That was a huge piece, but it wasn't the last piece that this team needed. You don't be surprised if this team still tinkers around with the roster. You've been seeing it already, from the recent pickups they've had. Serge Rice is another one, re-signing Trey Jones, obviously drafting Wemby and City Sissoko. You're seeing still moves being made. And I think Spurs fans shouldn't rest on their laurels quite yet, despite getting Wemby. I think you have to have that mindset that this team is still not ready yet. Pop, GM Brian Wright, I think the whole Spurs, they've been saying it to everybody. Nobody should be surprised that this is not going to be a work in progress. It's still a work in progress. It's not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight. Probably that applies to the Spurs, the San Antonio team that you, me, our guest hopes to be. It's still whiles away. So with that in mind, just kind of keep that in the back of your head that it's great to get Wemby. It's great to have this young nucleus. It's great that they got a good amount of seasoning last year, taking lumps. It should pay off next season. But we'll see. We'll see just how further along they are in the rebuild, or even if they are in rebuild mode right now. We're going to be doing that and more with our guest right here on Locked On Spurs. Let's bring him on. He is Michael Jimenez. Yes, the man, the myth, and legend from the Acquired Taste Network on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. He is back, everybody. And Jimenez, you never need a rebuild. You're always ready to go.
Oh, no, not at all, man. I'm ready to go. And I didn't big time you today. Not
you
at
almost
all,
did.
man.
You were close. You were like,
no, technical difficulties is not a thing that where I'm big timing you. No. We were ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Yeah, you go. Make sure to follow Jimenez again on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. Hey, what's your thread's name?
It's MJIM1313.
There you go. Make sure to follow him on Threads, and he'll talk about the Acquired Taste, some good stuff in the horizon, like near future happening for Jimenez at the Acquired Taste Network. So Jimenez, you heard the little intro right now. Is this team still in team rebuild mode? And I got to say, Jimenez, I think they are. I think Spurs fans, they're excited for next season, and rightfully so. You get Wemby, yay. You got a young core that's raring to go and took a lot of lumps. I get the excitement, but they're still not there yet. I think there's still probably going to be some major pieces flipped down the road, whether it be players or draft picks. I just think this team is still not ready yet. They're still in the oven. They're still baking. Perhaps the temperature got lower on the dial, on the stove, but they're not out of the oven yet. Your thoughts?
100% disagree, man.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think they're ready to go. And I have not been so optimistic about a Spurs season in about 5 or 6 years since, dare I say, can I say the word Kawhi? Can I say his name?
Can you define ready to go?
I think they're ready to go in the sense that I think that they believe that this is a winning team.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that it's a championship caliber team.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a team that's going to threaten to win the West or anything like that. But what I am saying is that I understand that the Spurs right now might not look like they're ready. But you have to have some faith that all the pieces of the puzzle fit.
Right.
And that all that they needed was a Victor Wembanyama to kind of bring it all together.
Right.
Trey Jones, if we go through the starting lineup, Trey Jones, if he's going to be the starter, good assist to turnover ratio. May not be able to shoot a lick, but may not be asked to do that.
But there's a lot more to balance it out.
Exactly. Devin Vassell, man, he's a 40% plus 3-point shooter, can play good defense. That guy's solid. Keldon, if he could return to the form that he was 2 years ago when he was knocking down 3-pointers at a 39% clip, if he could return to that and stay in his lane, and speaking of staying in his lane, that's where a Jeremy Sohan fits in, because they're not going to ask him to do everything.
Right.
And then you have Zach Collins out there who's going to bang bodies and spread the floor. I'm looking at this team, Doug McDermott. If you take a look at Malachi Branham getting a year under his belt, there's certain players on this team. There's something going on that I can kind of see this all coming together. And suddenly we might actually have a pretty decent team.
Yeah.
The way that I look at this team is the way that New Orleans was last year. I think the Spurs can have a New Orleans type of success level this upcoming year where they go out there and win, 44, 46, 47 games, try to make some noise in the playoffs. I can see that happening. And keep in mind, the Spurs division's not that good. I mean, what do you have? The Grizzlies, the Pelicans, the Mavericks, the Rockets. It's not like the Spurs have a very, very tough division to get through. I think the Spurs are better than the Rockets. Even though you have two big names in Dallas, I think it's very possible the Spurs are better than the Mavericks. And then you take a look at the Grizzlies losing some players. You take a look at the Pelicans forever missing out on Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Why not? Why can it not be our year this year? As pessimistic as I was last year is as optimistic as I am this year.
I'm not pessimistic. What I am is just needing to tone it down a bit as far as lofty expectations. Look, are there expectations for this team next season? Of course there are. You hit a bunch of them on the head. From the experience the young guys got, Wemby being added, and so on and so forth. They even added veteran players. As of now, unless something happens between now and preseason and regular season, you got Campaign, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, and Cedi Osman. Okay, so they brought in an infusion of a veteran presence. But when I say they're not out of the rebuild phase yet, is one, because Wemby's here and he made it clear he wants to win soon. I don't think the Spurs are going to want to drag this out. Maybe you give him this upcoming season as his red shirt season to get prepped and ready to go. They also sitting on a ton of draft picks, a lot of flippable players if needed. They got to use those picks. So why not still be in rebuild mode and try to down the road, whether it's late, towards the end of the this season, or right before the trade deadline, I should say, or even in next off season, use all that to get a team where you're out of the rebuild phase and maybe you just enter the retooling phase. I think they're close to the retooling phase, but I don't think they're out of the rebuild phase yet, because you got to do something with all those picks. You can sit on it as long as you want, but why not just cash them in? Swing for the fences, whether it be this season or next season, and get Wemby to the playoffs, or as you mentioned, those NBA finals or West finals, whatever it is, sooner rather than later. So I would like to see them just get to a retooling phase after they've done some smart moves. I don't say major moves just to make them, but just good smart moves. Whether they bring in a all-star. I think last I checked, Jimenez, there's not a single all-star on this roster at all.
No, there isn't. But
Yeah.
I think what the Spurs can have is that they can grow in stages in one single year. It doesn't have to be a retool stage the entire year. It could be something where, the Spurs are 500 or so going into the rodeo road trip, which is coincides with the trade deadline. And all of a sudden the Spurs start making the moves instead of, hey, we're going to get picks, but maybe we're going to dole out picks in order for us to get better and make a run. That is the difference there. We got to see what the Spurs have because, it's weird because we got excited last year. A lot of Spurs fans got excited when the Spurs got off to a hot start. And I was like, cool your jets. It's a mirage. But the opposite is true.
Yeah.
The opposite is true. If the Spurs start off 2-5, the world's not coming to an end because they're still trying to figure out how Victor Wembanyama is going to fit into this whole rotation. Obviously, it's going to revolve around him, but it's going to take some time to kind of figure all this out. And, I'm looking at the expectations of the Spurs right now.
Well, that's a good point to stop it right there. That's a good point to stop. When we get back, we're going to talk about those expectations, what you have about Vegas, right here on Locked On Spurs with Mike Jimenez of the Acquired Taste Network. Follow him on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste.
Hello there.
Hey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times, you heard that right, 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. It's a lot of money. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Check it out. That's $200 you can spend betting from everything from the money line to the over and under to who you think is going to be the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. I mean, what more can you want? Well, there's no better place to bet on MLB than on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I go there. I love they're looking at their NBA futures, their projections on the Spurs and Wemby. It's all there. You got to go to FanDuel right now. Sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA and get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
Hello there.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Michael Jimenez of the Acquired Taste Network. Follow him on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. Applaud him. He didn't big time me. Give him his props. Let him know that he didn't stand me up as he does ever so often. I was close to texting Joe Garcia to say, Joe, you're
right. Dude, come on, man. Come on.
But we're talking about the Spurs and their rebuild, or if this team is still in rebuild mode, or are they coming out of it, or they are entering the retooling phase. So, before the break, you were talking about Vegas and where they stand on the rebuild phase. What you got?
Well, the expectations of it is that, no one's expecting much of the Spurs. So when you have that type of attitude about a team, then any success level that you have is going to be considered overachieving. Vegas thinks the Spurs are going to win 31 games. And I'm looking at mock drafts for next year, the 2024 draft. And most of the mock drafts have the Spurs slated somewhere between 5 and 6. Wow. CBS Sports say number 5.
Still one of the worst records.
Number 6. Yeah. And one of the weird things about it, though, is that I'm looking at where they think the Spurs are going to draft. They think the Spurs are going to draft at number 6 and at number 7 because they have Toronto projected to be right there where the Spurs would pick up their first-round draft pick as well based on a past trade. The sad part is that Tankathon has the Spurs losing one of their first-round draft picks, which is the one from Charlotte, because that one would not convey this year. Charlotte would need to make the playoffs, essentially, for the Spurs to get it, and this would no longer be conveyed as a first-rounder. This would be conveyed as a second-rounder down the road, or a series of second-rounders. So that was one of those trades where they were like, oh, the Spurs got 3 first-rounders. I was like, no, they didn't. They got 2 and a potential third.
Right.
So we have to hope and pray that Charlotte becomes a decent enough team to make the playoffs so that we can get their first-round pick.
Right.
So when I look at the Spurs right now making a run, the Spurs don't necessarily need to make a run to the point where, you kind of fear, oh, we're going to lose out on this potential big draft pick, because the Spurs have other picks along the way. We got 3 in 2025 for crying out loud. We've got Atlanta as a 2025. We've got another teams in 2025 as well. There's been so many trades. It's
Mm-hmm.
all become quite a blur, but I know the Spurs have the potential for 3 first rounders in 24, a potential for 3 in 2025, or it's actually set in stone pretty much in 2025. So I'm pretty amped up about what's going on with the Spurs right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this story before. I've seen the Spurs get that first round draft pick in David Robinson and Tim Duncan. And yeah, they were older, had more experience. But I'm looking at that saying, why can it not happen again? Why can we not go from a 22-win team to a 45-win team to a 50-win team? Why can it not happen?
And here's what I'm saying, because I don't see the Spurs. You use the example of Robinson and Duncan. Different time, different squads. Robinson kind of came on already with the with a little bit of a seasoned team that had some veterans on there, but it wasn't like it was when Tim Duncan came, a ready-made squad, full of veterans. The Spurs with Wemby now, he's not coming into that situation. And even during Duncan's early years, the Spurs were still trying to make, good, solid moves to get Duncan to where he needed. You saw the Derek Anderson deal. They brought him in. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. He was gone after a season, I think. The Richard Jefferson, try to bring in a guy like that. Somebody can help. That was more like a retooling though move because they had some issues, with the Lakers, and they thought he was going to be the answer. With Wemby, they're not even at the retooling phase yet. They still need to bring in. First of all, you're right. You hope that this young squad gets better as they go next season. Get back to me and Mike around the All-Star break, and we'll see where they are, and if they need to make a big move. But I just think, why not just use what you have? If I have a ton of cash on me, and I can pay off a credit card bill in one hit, or I'll pay it off as I go. I would want to get rid of that now. Same thing like a rebuild. Well, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's there. I see it. My credit card debt is getting less and less. I'll do a little move here. Here's $10. Here's $20. No, you're sitting on, you only owe like $200 and I have $500 here. Do the smart thing, the responsible thing, pay it off quick.
Well, we only have 4 years of Victor Wembanyama guaranteed, and I know the Spurs can always pay him more after this contract because the Supermax, keeping your own player, you get paid more. I think a good topic for us to discuss, maybe not today, but this could be a good Locked On Spurs topic down the road, is compare the 1989 Spurs roster to the 1997 Spurs roster to the 2023 Spurs roster. Because I'm looking at it right now. I mean, what David Robinson walked into, it's different for Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan obviously had the better team because he was joining a 50-win team that just happened to have David Robinson in there, who was injured most of the season, and Elliott was injured for most of it as well. But I'm looking at this 89 squad, and this is where we're showing our age here. But we had a very young Willie Anderson. We had a veteran in Frank Brikowski, and veterans in Maurice Cheeks and Terry Cummings, a young Sean Elliott, Vernon Maxwell. We had old-time Spurs and Mike Mitchell and Johnny Moore. Rod Strickland was on this team. David Wingate, Reggie Williams. The Spurs in 89, when they got David Robinson, were very similar in my eyes to the 2023 Spurs of today, in the sense that there was no big star that was there. The 89 team was older. It had more experience. But the 2023 squad has the same type of talent level, but with younger legs. And that's
I think the experience, though, I give that edge, because Robinson went to the playoffs year one,
right?
And I don't.
But that was a 21-61 squad,
right.
That eventually morphed into a 56-26 team.
I can see this upcoming Spurs team making a play-in spot, but not a playoff spot. Like to guarantee themselves 1 through 6. Like 1 through 6, I don't see that unless something crazy happens. Kawhi, is out for the entire season, or Luka gets hurt. But barring something, I mean, you could just get the 6 right now. You could say it's going to be Denver. Who's that? Denver, Sacramento. That's 2 already.
You could say
Lakers
Memphis.
probably. Okay, Memphis, I guess they lowered like one of the 5 or 6 because of Ja.
Golden State.
Golden State, Pelicans.
It's going to be a dogfight if the Spurs are going to make their way into it.
Yeah.
So
for them to get a solid 1 through 6, I think that would be lofty.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at the standings from last year, you essentially need to be a 500 team to make it into the play-in tournament. Maybe you can be a couple of games under 500, a 40 and 42 squad.
You're talking about the play-in squad, right?
The play-in, yeah.
Okay.
And you need about 40 wins to get into the play-in. You need about 48 to get into a locked-in 1 through 6.
1 through 6, okay.
Maybe 46 best case scenario. And are the Spurs that? I think the Spurs in the first couple of months will probably be one of the bottom third in the Western Conference, simply because they're trying to figure each other out.
Yeah.
But it's getting that momentum down the stretch.
Yeah.
And seeing can they win 10 out of 15? Can they bond together during the rodeo road trip when they're away from San Antonio and forced to be together the entire time? I know a lot of these Spurs players have already had that, but that's an experience that Victor Wembanyama's never had. And I'm just excited to see which player is going to make a leap this year that we're not expecting. Because if Malachi Branham, my son, if he turns into the guy that I want him to be, it would be so exciting. If Vassell can knock down shots, if Trey Jones shocks the world, suddenly becomes a pretty decent shooter and can do that along with the passing and the steals, and if Zach Collins can just stay healthy, all I'm saying is that I like a lot of the ingredients, and the ingredients don't look good without the steak. Well, the Spurs had a bunch of side dishes, but never had the steak.
Well, I know what you're trying to. Here. Yeah, I know what you're trying to do. By the way, bringing up steak on Locked On Spurs right now. But all right, before we hit the break, right as of this moment, as we're recording this in July, are they in a rebuild, retool, or they're out of all that already?
I think that for the first 2 months, they are in a retool.
Okay.
I think the rebuild's over. Right. I think the rebuild's over.
I think they're in a rebuild, but lowercase letters, and the lights at the end of the tunnel. Because I want to see what they're going to do with all those picks and cash. Because if they can swing for something, then now they're out. They're out. Something good. Not to make a move just to make a move, but a smart move. Whether that be a Pascal Siakam or shoot for the fences, even though he wants to go to Miami, Damian Lillard, something to that effect, where we'll see. But hey,
can I bring something up real fast?
Yeah, real fast. Yeah, we got to hit the.
Has nothing to do with the rebuild, but earlier this week, Jaylen Brown signed the biggest deal in NBA history. He's going to be making $60 million a year on average.
Wow,
$69 million. The final year of the contract, which I believe is 2028, 2029 season. Think about that, because if the Spurs keep Victor Wembanyama and supermax him, can you imagine the Spurs paying a player $80 million a year?
I can't.
Because that's what it would take to keep him.
Well, that's a great topic, and we'll probably bring that up tomorrow on Locked On Spurs. Hey, well, yeah. I want to talk to you about Mudslingers. I'm thinking about like money now. Oh, we got my head in the clouds. 69 million. That's crazy. Hey, we want to talk to you about Mudslingers. See, this is the part right here where I'll let the guests go and take a little break, but I want to keep Jimenez on for this segment. I'm sorry. Mudslingers is a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. See what the money did? The money just clouded my head already.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to go to Mudslingers because it's locally owned. It's serving the San Antonio community. It's conveniently located at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. You're in San Antonio between 281 and 1604. Jimenez, before I give you a little break, you love Mudslingers, don't you?
I do, because they're now a proud sponsor of the Acquired Taste Network as well.
Yep.
Yes, they're going to be one of the sponsors of the Fantasy Gods Fantasy Football Show, which gets going August 6th, and it's going to be exciting because we get to prepare people for their upcoming drafts, and we're going to be on air from 11 to 12 right before the noon games to tell you who to sit, who to bench, and who to pick up last minute off the waiver wire. But you mentioned Mudslingers. I mean, they've got the drink that you got to name, the OGOJ.
The OGOJ, yep.
But I am a fan of the mini donuts, man. The mini donuts there are so good.
Yeah. You ever see what the people do? They'll get a drink and they'll stack them on their straw. Like they'll put the donuts on the straw.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So they'll have like a piece of the straw sticking out. So they'll take a drink and then they'll take a bite. So it's like a kebab, like a chicken on a stick. I mean, there's pictures of it, but donut on a stick, basically.
It is so freaking good over there.
Yeah.
And you know what I like about it also is that sometimes I drive by these smaller neighborhood coffee places. There's one by my house, for example, that's forever packed. And I question whether or not it's forever packed because it's that good or because there's that slow. But whenever I go to Mudslingers, the line kind of zooms around.
It is. That's what I like
there
about
is a line, but it zooms around.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that about them.
Yeah, exactly. And not only are they one of the best, or not the best coffee place in San Antonio, they got everything you need. Dairy alternative drinks, they got it. You need a quick pick-me-up, they try the Red Bull infused Lightning Bolt series. Add a flavor, add strawberry. I cannot stress that enough. It'll just open your eyes and get you going for the day. But if you don't need a pick-me-up and you can use a little less caffeine, again, the OGOJ, basically, for us 70s and 80s babies, back in the day, there was something called Orange Julius. They don't exist anymore. They not, at least not in San Antonio. And what Mudslingers did is they recreated it. So you go there, get yourself the OGOJ, and with Wemby coming to town, try the Alien drink. It is a full can of Red Bull. Jimenez can't handle a full can of Red Bull.
No.
And red apple and kiwi all mixed together. It is very, very delicious. And also try their signature drink, which is the Mudslinger dark chocolate caramel. I mean, it is really, really, really good. So you want to go to Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, again, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, and find them on Threads, TikTok, Facebook. What else? I mean, they're everywhere, Jimenez. Instagram.
They are. They got smoothies too, by the way.
You got smoothies. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you cannot go wrong. Go to Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. And you never know. They might have another impromptu Spurs meetup. They did. They literally just had one a couple days ago. Again, Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Life is too short for bland coffee. All right, let's continue our chat about the Spurs. And Jimenez, before I let you go, because I know you got to get back to work here soon, there's been some rumbling, some chatter about Evan Fournier, the Spurs. He did an interview with a foreign outlet saying that he wants out of New York. He's not happy in New York. He's not happy about his playing time. And when the conversation turned about the Spurs, his eyes lit up and said, yeah, he would welcome that. He is under contract, though, so Spurs would have to make a deal or maybe wait if the Knicks just waive him, buy him out. But would you like to see Evan Fournier in silver and black?
He's the kind of player where if they had him, great. If they don't, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. It's just one of those things. I mean, he plays the 2 or 3 position.
Yeah.
We already have Keldon there. We already have Vassell there. And for all intents and purposes, a 7-3 small forward in Victor Wembanyama. We also have Doug McDermott, who can play kind of the 3 position, the 3 and 4.
Osman,
CD, who the Spurs have been enamored with for so long. So I'm not going to say that I gotta have him on this team.
Yeah.
But if the Spurs pulled some strings to make it happen, I wouldn't be against it because the Spurs need to have that type of veteran presence. That's why the whole Reggie Bullock thing, I think, has gone under the radar because that's why I kind of feel like the Spurs may not necessarily be in the rebuild mode because the Spurs right now have 18 players on the roster. They got to get rid of 3. And if they get rid of young guys, that's going to tell me that they're ready to roll, that they want to win games. But if they're getting rid of the veterans, if they get rid of the CD, they get rid of the Bullock, if they get rid of
Payne,
the Graham or anything like that, then you know that the Spurs are back in rebuild mode, at least mentally, as what they're telling me. So that's why I'm interested in seeing what the Spurs do when they trim the roster, because they're going to eventually have to do it. But Fournier is somebody who's pissed off because He lost his starting gig there in New York. He's gone from having a 30 minutes per game type of thing to a 12 minutes per game.
Wow.
His 3-point shooting has gone down a bit. But career-wise, what, about a 36, 37% three-point shooter?
And that's why I would want him to San Antonio if they were swinging, because he addresses the need, which is outside shooting, because these guys, on the current roster, they're still a work in progress.
Right.
But Fournier is, can knock down those outside shots, threes and mid-range.
That name,
don't
Fournier.
Don't
Fournier,
do it.
It's French. It's French. Victor Wembanyama.
Well, that's another reason why he wanted to. That's a reason why he wants to team up with Wemby. He literally said it. Yeah,
and that's the thing, is that he's French, and maybe, just maybe, Wemby needs to have somebody around who understands him like that.
I know Sissoko there. He has Parker there.
Yeah, he does, but it's different when Parker ain't going to be there for 82 games,
right?
And CD's going to be going up and down I-35 with the Austin Spurs.
Well, another kind of under the radar move the Spurs made is they brought in Tony Parker's brother to be an assistant coach.
Yeah,
with the Austin Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll have that asset, as a coach at the
Isn't
ready.
This exciting? This is so exciting. This is kind of like
Pierre Parker,
you're going on vacation and it's the day before vacation. You're going to have fun, because you've got tickets to this, that, and the other, and you can see the amusement park out in the horizon. And that amusement park for Spurs fans is getting back to a 50-win season, getting back to a 55-win season. We see it. It's 3 exits down. It's just how fast are we driving to get there? And do we have to pull over and get some snacks before we go? That's the thing, because the more I think about it, what I said a few minutes ago, who the Spurs drop in October, if they're veterans, if they drop veterans, they're rebuilding. If they're dropping young guys or younger guys and keeping the vets, then they're going for it.
Yeah. And speaking of those 3 exits ahead, that's where I kind of goes back to our original topic. Are they rebuild or retool? You pull over to get the snacks, retool. You pull over because you think your tires can need an upgrade to get to that next third exit, then you do it. So, but it's interesting, that's the good thing about the Spurs. They're in a good position. They have the assets, player wise, money wise, draft pick wise, to either retool, like Jimenez thinks they are, or they're out of it already. I'm sorry, Jimenez is already there. They're out of the rebuild retooling phase, or like me, who thinks they're in a lowercase rebuild still. But overall, it is exciting, whether it be Wemby fever, seeing how Sohan progresses, seeing if Keldon makes the next big step in his development, and so much more. As always, we'll get you covered here on Locked On Spurs. Quick housekeeping note, though. Locked On Spurs will be, reduced in, an amount of we do starting next week. Maybe not every day, maybe 2 or 3 a week, but we'll get you going. This is it. We're in the slow period of the offseason. This is it. There's not much to talk about. We brought up Evan Fournier, for goodness sake. That's how tapped out we are at topics here. Jimenez, I can't let you go without you bragging about the Acquired Taste. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, the Acquired Taste Network. We are almost being able to capitalize on this on YouTube as far as getting paid for being a...
How far away you are?
We are, it hasn't updated in the last 48 hours, but last I checked, we were about 780 viewing hours away from it. And so we can start monetizing it once we get to 3,000 viewing hours. Keep in mind, we've only been doing this for about 5 weeks. We've got about 23, 24 shows under our belt. And the subscribers keep coming. We're inching to 550 at this point. And just like you, when it comes to Locked On Spurs, it's a slow time of the season. I'm incorporating a lot more pop culture, a lot more nostalgia into what we're doing, because I would rather do that than talk baseball. I'm sorry, but baseball bores me to tears until September rolls around. No, but it's a fun show. We're adding the fantasy show on August 6th. And we're in talks right now about starting a Dallas Cowboys podcast immediately after games. It's going to be the therapy couch.
Training camp already opened up. I thought you'd be on that already.
Well, yeah, but that's just talk for the diehards. At some point,
Trust me, San Antonio is diehards. You know that.
The games are going to come around, and that's what matters the most is the games and the 53-man roster and all of that stuff. So we're going to have, beginning in September, when the Cowboys take the field, we're looking at having a podcast that's going to be specifically about the game that just happened. It's going to be like first reaction to it all. And I want to thank a lot of our sponsors. We added 3 new sponsors this past week: Mad Pecker Brewery, Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, and we also added Bear County Social Apparel to the mix. So 7 sponsors already, just 5 weeks in. We've got 3 others that we're talking to right now. Things are going okay, man. Things are going okay.
Yeah, I was on yesterday, and we talked Spurs and everything, but it is refreshing though to talk a little pop culture with you, because that's one of my big interests is pop culture. I mean, you follow me on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. Yeah, you know I love me some pop culture and anything nerd. So Jimenez is doing big things, and make sure to catch his show on YouTube. At I think it's just MJ Acquired Taste or Acquired Taste?
It's Acquired Taste, I believe, is Acquired Taste Network, I believe is what it is.
Yeah, just search for it on YouTube and subscribe and check it out.
Oh wait, I got it. It's Acquired Taste, Sports and Pop Culture.
That's it right there. Make sure
I took my initials off because it's going to be more than just me on here.
Yeah, exactly. No way. I mean, you started it. I can appreciate you giving yourself a pat on the back for, putting yourself out there like that. But
I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not Elon Musk.
Fun. Or just change it to X. How's that?
Well, that's what I was. I'm pointing right now at the screen where it has my Twitter handle. Are we going to replace the bird, because the bird died the other day?
Oh, that's right.
Are we going to have the X logo?
I guess technically yes. You got to have the X logo. Yeah, I like, as a nerd, I like it. I like X-Men. That's my first thought. But hey, but good show. It's funny. It's hilarious. Jimenez just sometimes loses his train of thought. Yeah. Yeah. If you witness what happened recently on this show, if you know, you
sent me screenshots and everything. Busted.
You big time. We're not going to say it. You got to go look for yourself. Again, he is Michael Jimenez with the Acquired Taste Network on YouTube. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. And speaking of everydayers, on tomorrow's show, I'm giving you a heads up now. It's going to be all Wemby. I can't escape it. I try. I just can't escape a day without Wemby. But our guest tomorrow is going to be James Pledger of the San Antonio Sports. He's coming on, and he's going to be talking our ear off about Wemby. And one of those topics is what Jimenez brought up about getting paid, Jaylen Brown style. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow right here on Locked On Spurs. But for Michael Jimenez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.